Aiming to highlight the issues in Balochistan, on March 10, the Baloch National Movement announced the launch of a global campaign. This announcement comes at a time when a deep and prolonged silence has gripped the region. For months, Balochistan has seen an extreme shrinking of political space. Authorities now hold near total control, leaving almost no room for open political opposition. According to local media reports, voices across Balochistan have been systematically silenced. Over the past year, many political leaders have been detained. Activists have been imprisoned or even killed in extrajudicial actions. The overall political environment has become suffocating. This crackdown is not limited to the ground, it has extended into the digital sphere, where Baloch social media users face intimidation and harassment. Observers increasingly describe the situation as an unannounced form of martial law. The BNM's campaign focuses on these long-standing conditions. It aims to bring global attention to enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, and the systematic suppression of political freedoms in Balochistan. Dr. Naseem Baloch, chairman of BNM, addressed the United Nations Human Rights Council. He spoke of thousands of disappearances, bodies written as warnings, and family living in constant fear. These are not just violations, they are an attempt to erase a people, he said.
This important platform to discuss human rights situation in Pakistan and the implications of its preferential trade status under the Generalized Scheme of Preference Plus, commonly known as GSP Plus. The European Union granted Pakistan this special trade status with the expectation that it would comply with international conventions on human rights, labor rights, and democratic governance. The intention is clear. Trade privileges should encourage governments to respect the fundamental rights and dignity of their citizens. Unfortunately, the reality on the ground in Pakistan tells a very different story. For decades, the people of Balochistan have faced systematic and widespread human rights violations. These include enforced disappearances, extrajudicial and custodial killings, arbitrary detention, torture, and the suppression of political voices. Thousands of Baloch political activists, students, journalists, and ordinary civilians have been forcibly disappeared. Many are held in secret torture centers without access to courts with their families or contact with their families. Some later reappear as mutilated bodies found on roadsides, a practice widely referred to as the kill and dump policy. In 2025, we have documented 1,355 cases of enforced disappearances and 229 cases of extrajudicial killings. The figures for this year up to 20th March are equally alarming. 228 enforced disappearances and 81 extrajudicial killings. And these disappearances include 10 women. Out of these 10, 5 were later released after being subjected to torture, and 1 was presented in the media with fabricated charges. Notably, 21 of these killings occurred within the first 10 days of the month of March in a single town called Panjgur in Balochistan. For many families in Balochistan, human rights are not an abstract concept. They mean the difference between knowing whether your son is alive or spending years searching for his dead body. Mothers sisters, and children continue to protest peacefully, holding photographs of their missing loved ones. Many have marched hundreds of kilometers to Islamabad demanding justice and accountability through peaceful demonstration. Yet their voices remain largely unheard. These actions constitute clear violations of international human rights law, including the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Convention Against Torture, both of which Pakistan has ratified. Distinguished participants, the shrinking space for political dissent and civil liberties in Pakistan is increasingly shrinking. The arrest and treatment of former Prime Minister Imran Khan has raised serious concerns about the rule of law and democratic norms in Pakistan. Unlawful arrests, politically motivated prosecutions, and the denial of due process must be condemned wherever they occur in the world. As I talk of Balochistan, these violations are committed by a state. So it is important to recognize that whoever is in power, they do the same. We have to know when Imran Khan was in power, the suffering of the people of Balochistan did not come to an end. Today, many members of his political party are facing forms of repression that Baloch activists, students, and political workers have endured for decades. When injustice is ignored because the victims are marginalized or politically inconvenient, it does not disappear, it spreads. What Baloch activists have endured for decades is now being experienced more widely across Pakistan. Despite this deeply concerning human rights situation, Pakistan continues to benefit from the GSP Plus scheme of European Union. This raises an important question. If the human rights conditions attached to this program are not effectively enforced, what message does it send, both to the victims and to the governments that violate international law? Human rights conditionality must not exist only on papers. It must operate as a genuine mechanism to encourage reform and ensure accountability. We therefore respectfully urge policymakers within the European Union and members of the European Parliament to conduct a serious and transparent review of Pakistan's compliance with its human rights commitments under GSP+. Independent human rights organizations, civil society groups, and the families of victims, particularly from the affected regions as occupied Balochistan, must be included in this process. Before I conclude, I must respectfully address honorable member of the European Parliament who spoke through the radio. We are very thankful to her that she mentioned the plight and ordeal of the Baloch people. And on this platform, we request her to stand as a global advocate for human rights and democratic values. The people of Balochistan look to institutions such as European Parliaments. We urge all the European Member Parliament and other human rights activists to be the voice of the voiceless people. The people of Balochistan are not asking for privilege. They are asking for freedom, justice, and for self-determination in accordance with the UN Charter.
He underscored his organization's effort to advocate for the suspension of GSP Plus status granted to Pakistan by the European Union, citing ongoing human rights violations in Balochistan. Fahim Baloch, BNM's Foreign Secretary, emphasized independent investigation and accountability. He detailed reports by international bodies confirming enforced disappearances, torture, and extrajudicial killings, urging the global community to act.
Distinguished Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to raise serious concerns about the human rights situation in Balochistan. Reports of Amnesty International say that enforced disappearances, torture, extrajudicial killing, and continue in the region. Many people are taken by the security forces, disappear for long periods, and sometimes their dead bodies are found. Amnesty International has described this situation kill and dump policy in Balochistan. Human Rights Commission of Pakistan has also reported that enforced disappearances continue. Families search for their missing loved ones, often face pressure, harassment when they ask for answers. Several countries have also raised concerns. The United Kingdom has spoken about the reports of mass graves in Balochistan and continue to raise human rights issues with Pakistan. The United States, in its annual reports on human rights, has documented cases of killings, disappearances, and tortures. Members of the European Union, including the Netherlands, have highlighted these concerns. Experts from the United Nations Human Rights Council have called on Pakistan to investigate these cases and respect international human rights law. We respectfully ask the Council to support an independent investigation, ensure accountability, and help protect the basic rights of the people of Balochistan. I thank you.
Mahra Baloch highlighted personal stories of suffering. Young students, fathers, mothers, and children caught in a relentless wave of repression. She stressed that the world must see what is happening not as statistics, but as lives at stake.
In Balochistan, an entire people are being punished for existing. Under the guise of counter-terrorism, the Pakistani state has turned law into a weapon criminalizing dissent, erasing lives and silencing an entire nation. Pakistan's Anti-Terrorism Act has been misused to label Baloch students, activists and human rights defenders as so-called proscribed persons. This label strips them of freedom, denies their right to travel and places them under constant threat. In 2025 alone, PANC, the Human Rights Department of Baloch National Movement, documented 1,355 enforced disappearances and 225 extrajudicial killings. These are not statistics, Mr. President. These are fathers taken from homes, students abducted from campuses, and bodies returned as warnings. Dr. Mahrang Baloch, a Nobel Peace Prize nominee, has been arbitrarily arrested, denied medical care, and targeted solely for peaceful advocacy. Internet shutdowns, mass surveillance, collective punishments are routine designed to ensure that the world does not see what's happening in Balochistan. Mr. President, silence enables these crimes. We urge this assembly to demand that Pakistan immediately end these violations, release all arbitrarily Baloch activists, and initiate independent and transparent investigations into enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings. I thank you.
Thank you.
Jamal Baloch spoke of the international campaign's impact.
President, I stand before this council to speak about the systematic human rights violations in Balochistan carried out by Pakistan and sustained through the strategic and economic involvement of China. In Balochistan, enforced disappearances are a state policy. Pakistan's military operates above the law, abducting students, teachers, journalists, and political activists. In 2025 alone, over 1,300 people were forcibly disappeared and more than 200 were extrajudicially killed. Peaceful dissent is treated as terrorism. Women-led civil rights movements like BYC are crushed. Entire districts are placed under internet blackouts to conceal military operations and silence victims. Mr. President, these crimes have escalated alongside projects tied to the China-Pakistan economic corridor to secure strategic interests and resource extraction. Pakistan's military has intensified repression and militarized civilian lives. Enforced disappearance is a crime against humanity. Extrajudicial killing is murder under international law. Development cannot be built on mass graves, and sovereignty cannot be used as a license to brutalize an entire people. I call for an independent international fact-finding mission, accountability for Pakistan's military leadership, and an end to international partnership that enables repression. I thank you.
Thank you.
Even human rights defenders outside Balochistan, like Shan Fajiki from Japan, have joined the call, highlighting enforced disappearances and resource exploitation.
Mr. President, distinguished delegates, imagine Baloch mothers desperately searching for abducted sons, daughters, and teenagers punished in the night raid. In 2025, over 1,200 enforced disappearances were documented in Balochistan, including women and 75 students, with more than 1,000 still missing amid torture, killings, and silence. This fear enabled unchecked resource plunder. Recorded copper and gold go to outsiders, while poverty increases. Guadal fishing communities are displaced without consent, violating UN RIP, ICCPR, and human dignity. Dr. Mehlan Baloch remains detained over a year since March 2025 for peaceful protest. How much longer will the world ignore entire people fading? This council must act decisively. Launch fact-finding missions to Rikodik, Sindak, and Guadal. Demand Pakistan ratify the enforced disappearance Convention and ILO 169, repeat repressive laws, enforce 50% royalty for affected communities, and condition funding on verified FP, local hiring priority, and proven poverty reduction. The Baloch play out. Do not let their voice vanish forever. Justice delayed is justice denied. Thank you for your attention.
From Geneva to Busan, from Europe to Asia, the Baloch National Movement's campaign continues. Peaceful protests, media advocacy, and diplomatic engagement aim to amplify the voices of the silenced. The global campaign is far from over. It is a call for accountability, for recognition, and for justice. Balochistan's story is no longer confined to its border. The world is watching.